Hey y'all, Zach McDonald, your real estate agent with Real Property Associates, and I got with me Nic Lind from Commencement Bay Brokers here today in Tacoma. And we got a special treat for you. We are going to talk about the Seattle Bellevue market, and we're also going to talk a little bit more about Tacoma, give you a little bit of a comparison. But before we jump in, I want to just give Nic a sec. Nic, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and your team, just so they know, get to know you a little bit?
Yeah, thanks, Zach. I appreciate you having me here. I'm super excited to share more. I'm from Mount Vernon originally, so that's not too terribly far from you and where you do business. My team's been growing in Tacoma for 12 years, and over the course of those 12 years, I have become a super fan of Tacoma. I love what's going on down there. The whole area has become more and more vibrant. I got to tell you, when I first moved to Tacoma, I didn't know what I was getting into. There's some unbelievable spots of Tacoma, and when people are moving south, we've become a real go-to for people that are trying to get out of the city of Seattle, but maybe want still that kind of urban vibe. Mm-hmm. And Tacoma is a great option for them that's super affordable. So we love Tacoma. We got a team of about 8 people that knock it out of the park for clients that are moving to Tacoma. I think it's gonna be super fun today to talk about what's going on in Tacoma, what's going on in Seattle, and what's going on in some of the other markets that we serve.
Yeah, super grateful to have him here, and you all get to hear me talk about Seattle and Bellevue and what's going on here, but you don't get to hear as much about the South Sound, Pierce County, and I think the markets are similar but quite a bit different. And in our most recent market update, we talked about how Seattle and Bellevue both set new median sales price records. Seattle coming in at $960 median sales price for the month of March, and Bellevue $2.25 million median sales price. Absolutely bonkers. And again, we're talking about the residential stats here from the Northwest Multiple Listing Service. But Nic, tell us what's going on in Tacoma, because I know Tacoma prices aren't quite that high, but I think the market's pretty hot down there.
So the crazy thing when I look at Tacoma and the house prices in Tacoma relative to the house prices in Bellevue and Seattle, the median sale price in Tacoma is $484. Right? And so you can live in a great neighborhood in Tacoma for give or take $500,000. If you want to live in the premier neighborhood in Tacoma, we just closed on a sale yesterday right by University of Puget Sound, which is gorgeous.
It's where my dad went to college.
Oh, right on. Yep. There you go. So we closed on one yesterday for $580 for a client moving up into that neighborhood. And it's super walkable. You've got all kinds of fun stuff, vibrant stuff going on. So Tacoma's been becoming more and more popular, and especially those beautiful neighborhoods that have been just like these hidden diamonds that when I moved down there, I didn't know about either. Those are extremely popular neighborhoods, but when I look at what's happening in Tacoma relative to the other markets, we're all on a similar trajectory, but Tacoma's literally half the cost of Seattle, a third the cost of Bellevue, and depending on how you want to live.
Maybe a fourth the cost of Bellevue.
That's even better math, and depending on where you want to live, I love it. I mean, my neighborhood's super walkable. I can walk to the water. We've got mountain views. We've got water views. We've got access to some of the great restaurants that have moved out of Seattle or expanded from Seattle down to Tacoma. If you haven't visited Proctor, you should visit Proctor. If you haven't visited Point Ruston, you should visit Point Ruston. So there are all these amazing amenities that give it that city vibe. But literally, I'm looking here, it's half the cost.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I'm curious what got you to Tacoma in the first place. You're from Mount Vernon. Tacoma's not really that close to Mount Vernon. Mount Vernon's a little closer to Everett, maybe. So
I live with the best negotiator I've ever met. That's my wife. And her extended family is all from Tacoma. And
okay.
I have to tell you, so we met in Olympia. So if you want to talk to somebody who understands the I-5 corridor, probably me. We met in Olympia, and I thought we might end up settling down there. And when we decided to find our landing spot, she said, "You've got to check out Tacoma."
Okay.
My grandparents live in Tacoma by Annie Wright School, unbelievably beautiful prep school. My parents both grew up in Tacoma. I think we should really check it out. And I said, I don't know. I trust you. You say Tacoma's cool. Let's check it out. And I'll tell you, the very, very first drive, she told me to take Schuster Parkway, which is the first exit past the Tacoma Dome. She told me to scoot onto the waterfront and go to this little place called the Spar, which is like a Tacoma classic. It's been there since the 1880s. I think there were gunfights in the streets in front of the spa back in the day. But we went and checked it out, and I was like, no way. Like, there's Mount Rainier, there's the waterfront, you've got these restaurants, and then you drive up this little bowl that's called Old Town, and it just looks like the beautiful old Seattle neighborhoods. It mimics Queen Anne because it's like where the timber barons settled, right? So she drives me through this area, and I immediately go, this is amazing. She's like, I know, right? And then I go, but we can't afford it. And she said, really? And I took a look at some prices, and I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And so we popped right into this just vibrant, amazing, hidden little pocket. I swear people outside of Pierce County don't know about it because nobody in Pierce County wants to tell you guys about it. And
do you want to tell us about it right now? What zip code and?
You have to call me for the details. That's how it works. But we're finding more and more transplants that are deciding that Seattle's a little bit too big or a little too chaotic or a little too expensive. And if you want the urban vibe and you don't want to go north, you'd rather go south. We're finding more and more people that say, hey, the cat's out of the bag. I heard that this Proctor district is really cool. And I mean, it is. It's amazing. My wife and I talk about where else we might consider living at some point, and we're hard pressed to find any place that we'd actually consider moving to. I mean, you have proximity literally within walking distance for us to the water and the waterfront and all the restaurants down there, to the Proctor district, which is boutique shops and really good restaurants. And within 4 minutes, I can be downtown to my office, and 6 minutes across the bridge to Gig Harbor, So there's a lot of cool things happening that were under the radar in Tacoma, and now they're really more and more kind of out there, and it's an affordable option to live in a great spot.
Yeah, I love it. Thanks for sharing a little backstory. You didn't know this. I've never told you this. I lived in Tacoma for the first year of my life because my parents met in college at UPS, and they had an apartment. My dad was still playing college football, and after graduating, and I got to live in Tacoma for a year. So I technically have lived in Tacoma. I've never put that on any marketing pieces, but that's actually the first place I lived. Yeah, I know, crazy.
We'll let you claim 253. It's okay.
No, I'm 425 through and through. Second, maybe 206. But I'm looking over some of these stats too. I was looking at the percentage of list price because I think we're talking about how competitive these different places are. And Seattle's been like 12% over asking price, just under that. Bellevue last month was over 20% above asking price. This month, 17.5% over, which is record high type of percentages. But Tacoma's doing pretty good too.
The Puget Sound region is just on fire. And I think if you think about the region as a whole, and then you look at these specific marketplaces and what they're doing, I mean, the major employers on the east side, they're moving so many people up here. And obviously that's where people are just duking it out and going crazy, right? But that's pushing people into some of the other parts of our marketplaces, right? And so Tacoma, we're talking about typically between 5 and 6% over asking. And that's really strong for Tacoma since I've been in the marketplace. How about the last 5 years? Typically we're seeing like at asking on average. Last year was about 102% of asking, but right now we're like 105, 106% of asking. So it's still competitive. It's just not quite as competitive. And I think we're seeing a lot of buyers say, hey, duking it out for 100, 200,000 over asking on the east side just doesn't work for me, but I have a good hand. And I really like Tacoma, and that commuter system is pretty convenient. So those are the types of buyers that are looking down in Tacoma.
Do you have a lot of people that are moving from King and Snohomish County down to Tacoma? Or is it people that are moving from outside of the area to Tacoma that aren't from maybe Washington?
I think, and I think one of the things you're speaking to is like why you should work with like a local expert in general, right? Tacoma's got 4 basic quadrants. There's the north end, which is probably the most desirable pocket. There's Westgate, which is very, very desirable. And there's the east side and the south side, which traditionally were more humbly built homes, right? And when we see people moving south, so to answer your question, we're seeing more of that activity than I remember seeing. People moving specifically from Seattle and coming south. People moving up from California saying this might be an option that I would consider. But by and large, when people are making that kind of move, they're moving into the north end. They're looking at Proctor. They're looking at Gig Harbor, which is a 5-minute bridge crossing away. They're looking at University Place, where the Chambers Bay Golf Course is, right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see that migration is happening, but where the activity is focused. It is creating a lot of competition at the upper level of the market in Tacoma and in Pierce County in general, more than I ever remember seeing. For a long time, the $1 million mark was just kind of like whispered about in Pierce County.
Okay.
And it was just something that we didn't see. And we've blown well past that. Especially as we have the market movement where people are trying to move up into the north end, and also people are migrating, and that's where they're focusing their move to.
So are you finding that there's more competition in the higher price points than in the lower price points in Tacoma?
Over the last 30 days, yes, and that surprised me. So yeah, and like we're on the phone right now. I mean, we serve first-time home buyers, we serve move-up buyers, and we serve that upper end of the market, and we're on the phone right now with our buyers that were a little fatigued. And if this is you out there currently, like if you're a little fatigued, we're entering the spring market. So there's a little bit less competition. It's not gone by any means, but it's the bar for getting in is a little lower.
Yeah.
Like we just won our third deal for a buyer today. And that's like the third deal in the last 3 days that we've won. And it used to take us thank you.
A fist bump for that.
Yes.
That's good.
Yes. But I mean,
Good news, guys.
That was just like, we're writing offers, and everybody's getting frustrated. So going back to the people that were feeling so frustrated, especially if they had a limited down payment or, limited additional capital for a low appraisal, we're going back to them right now and saying, this window's opening up. You can actually buy.
Yep.
I've had 2 consecutive listings that are kind of entry-level home price points, and they each had 1 offer on them. Wouldn't you like to get involved in that situation? But the upper end of the market, it's still really competitive because there are only so many houses in those neighborhoods.
So I'm looking at the supply numbers because I talk about those a lot in my videos, and I'm seeing, Tacoma's about almost half a month, 0.4 months of supply. Seattle and Bellevue are in that same ballpark. Because of that low supply, I know that's part of what's driving the market. And the other part being interest rates is a huge part of that. But tell me about what people could expect if they were making an offer on a house in Tacoma. You mentioned it's slowing down a little bit. I'm feeling it a little bit here. Today just put in an offer, still waiting to hear back. Yeah. There were 6 offers on a kind of entry-level house in Greenwood. And that was before the offer deadline. So I'm curious, what could people expect in Tacoma with the competition, and what does a half a month's inventory mean when they're making offers?
That's a great question because half a month's worth of inventory is, that's extremely low inventory.
Oh, right? Yeah.
So, but that's up 40% from last month. So we've gone from 1 week of inventory to 2 weeks of inventory, and balance is technically around 6 months of inventory, right?
Yeah.
So
we got a long ways to go.
Yeah, we're still tipped way towards the sellers. But what I'm noticing, and this is just mostly observational, is most of the offer situations that we get into now are less 5 to 10 offers, and more maybe 2 to 3 offers. Okay. And we have opportunities for people that are working with VA financing. We have opportunities with people that don't have a ton of additional down payment money to get at least a foot in the door. Yep. Most of our deals are going to be in the conventional, with conventional financing packages. Okay. And they're still probably going to be offering over asking. But I can tell you, because I work a lot on the seller's side of the seller's side of our process, I'm not seeing half as much additional down payment money as I saw 2 months ago. Okay. So there are more options on the market. There are more options coming to market than we've seen over the last 3 months.
So in our market, and more in the Seattle Bellevue metro, we're seeing a lot of buyers needing to have the highest price, remove all their contingencies, and then offer a lot of non-refundable earnest money, that type of stuff. Yep. Are you seeing those same things, or it sounds like maybe it's not quite, you don't have to be quite as crazy with your offer?
It's similar. Yeah, it's similar and different. So I know we've talked, bounce ideas off each other over the last few months about what's happening in these different markets. And in Tacoma, the offers that we've just gotten accepted, I talked to one of the clients today. They were at their home inspection, so they had an inspection contingency.
What?
Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah. I talked to another one, and so that was what I would call a very nice home in a good neighborhood. Okay. Not super exclusive, not the bottom of the price points.
Yeah, just like a good neighborhood.
Great spot to be, super close to Cheney Stadium. This is what you can get in Tacoma, by the way. So yeah, $600,000, super close to Cheney
You can walk
Stadium.
to the Rainiers game.
Walk to the Rainiers games, probably see the fireworks. I don't know.
Okay, that'd be fun.
Yeah, the lot's subdividable.
Okay, wow.
1,800 square foot Rambler, right? Like in really good condition. So they were having their home inspection today. I talked to another client this morning, and they just bought kind of that upper part of the price point, getting close to the upper end of the price point, and in a very, very nice neighborhood, and they're having their home inspection tomorrow. So both of them won.
Home inspections.
With home inspections.
What's that?
Regular earnest money, no non-refundable earnest money.
Yeah.
Easier said than done.
Yeah.
And, so you have to make an aggressive offer, but you can still have some protection in our market.
That's great. I had a listing recently that got one offer inspection, which was interesting to see again. But I think there's legitimate reasons for that. But still the overall situation is still a little bit hotter than that. But I could see that coming again this summer. That's what happened last summer in our market. Even though last year was crazy, we still had inspections in the summertime.
Yeah, I mean, our inventory starts to hit the market in the Northwest now, right? And so you can see it coming. It's just a matter of, is it going to stack up or not? And if you look at the stats, you can see like last year in March, we had more homes sell in Pierce County than came on the market. So we never replenished the supply.
Yep.
And this year, if you look at March, we actually had about 80 more homes hit the market than sold. Oh. So there's a little bump up in the supply. And there's still strong demand. So we'll see. It might be a little bit better year for buyers. At least there's a window right now.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, we saw a little bit more new listings as well in Snohomish and King County. But something that I've noticed is that since the days on market's so short, a lot of times those new listings that came on at the end of the month didn't get sold before the stats come out. So that's why we still keep seeing the really low inventory numbers. I'm curious, Nic, just to hear a little bit more from you, like why should somebody consider Tacoma over Seattle?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really like who's going to live in Tacoma. Like, and I just feel like that's been the market niche that I found, because Tacoma's a big enough city where people are coming and going. I'm not born and bred Tacoma. I'm the person that decided to move to Tacoma, that got to know the area, that got plugged in, and I can be kind of the liaison to people that are thinking about that. And the people that enjoy Tacoma, they really love like the old architecture. They love being in a city. Tacoma's got some unbelievable vantage points of Mount Rainier.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah, and some of the cityscape is phenomenal. Honestly, if you haven't visited Tacoma in 10 years, you should do yourself a favor and come down and check it out. I brought my accountant who lives in Bellevue down for a staycation. He was just blown away because of the way the waterfront has evolved, the way that Point Ruston, which is a condo community that's really just all inclusive, movie theaters and boutique shops, in the park system, all of those things are really, really vibrant in Tacoma. Historically, it's a blue collar community, so it's still really affordable to move into certain parts of town. But it also has these city amenities. So if you're going to move to Tacoma, it's probably like you enjoy the urban environment.
Yep.
Like my wife and I love that we can walk 4 blocks to the farmer's market.
That's awesome.
Into restaurants, right?
Yeah.
How cool is that? We can walk to 4 or 5 different schools and parks. So there's always different opportunities to play and recreate. I grew up in a small town, and some of those small town amenities aren't quite as robust as what you get in a city.
Yeah.
So if you're going to move to a city, and you don't want to spend the same amount as Seattle, or maybe you don't want to get lost in Seattle, you like a little bit of a smaller community feel. I mean, that's the person that's going to move down to Tacoma. Okay. Yeah, and it's becoming more and more popular with people that are going to actually commute, because that there's a light link that connects up to the Sounder, so you can get from Seattle all the way down through downtown Tacoma now pretty conveniently.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We'll kind of wrap up with this. I have a house that's worth about 1.1 in Edmonds. It's kind of on the King and Snohomish County border. And I'm curious, my house is 2,500 square feet, 1950s, updated, partially updated, but it's nothing fancy, pretty modest neighborhood. What would that buy me in Tacoma? Like, where could I be? So what could I upgrade to if I just moved a little farther south?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking probably about like you're going to be in the most exclusive neighborhoods in town. You're going to have walking ability to all those kind of vibrant little pocket neighborhoods that people want to be near. Proctor's where everybody wants to be. So that price point, you're going to be able to buy a substantial home, probably somewhere between 3,000 and 3,500 square feet. You're going to have a city lot. There's not very many big lots in Tacoma.
Yeah, it's fine.
But you're going to be walking distance to Proctor. And if you jumped up towards like 1.5 million, now you're talking about a saltwater view, probably views of Mount Rainier, maybe a little bit smaller house, but you're going to be in a pretty exclusive part of town.
Okay.
I mean, I'm telling you, like the most expensive sale that I have seen in Tacoma recently was about $2 million. And that had all the bells and whistles completely dialed in.
Yeah.
You know, you're looking like 180-degree views at the waterfront in Vashon Island. It's a special place, you know. And for me, the other piece that people forget is the access that you have from Tacoma to Vashon Island, which feels like you're in the San Juans.
Yeah.
Gig Harbor.
Gig Harbor's great. I love Gig Harbor.
I mean, Gig Harbor's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of the most premium saltwater communities that you're going to find anywhere in the country, right? And it's 7 minutes away from our house. You know, so the staycation, let's just zip over there and hang out.
Hang out at the beach for the day.
Let's just go to Gig Harbor. It's pretty wide. So there's these areas that are super accessible from Tacoma. And I think that's what most people don't realize. Like when we had friends visit from the East Coast for our wedding, which was in Tacoma, I couldn't come up with an itinerary of things for them to do, right? Because we all know the Northwest is amazing.
Yeah, there's lots of stuff to do.
And Tacoma's like situated about an hour away from almost all of them. You know, it's like an hour and a half to the ocean, and it's a little bit more than an hour to Mount Rainier. It's 40 minutes back to Seattle. You're just in this little cool little hub there.
The only thing it's not accessible to is Lake Washington, but maybe you don't care about that. You can get the lake taps, right?
You get the lake taps, yeah. The lakefront living's a little different. You get Gravelly Lake, which is where I'm going next, Gravelly Lake, and that's a pretty special spot.
Okay.
Yeah, the Warehousers have a massive estate on Gravelly Lake, and that's historically where...
is that where if you're anybody and you want to have waterfront, lakefront, that's where you go?
American Lake, Gravelly Lake would be about the most exclusive. Unless you're going to go out to Lake Taps, which is Bonnie Lake. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, I appreciate having you on. Thank you for joining us today. Talk a little bit about Tacoma, because I think we always talk about Seattle, Bellevue, but we don't really plug Tacoma, and I think Tacoma's a beautiful place. Is there anything else you wanted to kind of end with, or?
No, I think the Northwest is booming and for a reason, you know, and it doesn't look like there's an end in sight for that runway. Interest rates are going up, and that's, you know, theoretically going to slow some activity down, but it has not yet.
Yeah,
and
hasn't yet.
The amount of well-paid people that are moving to the area is just continuing to boost up our price points in all of these markets.
Yep.
Right?
All the way.
Yeah, and I just think one of the beautiful things about Tacoma is we can still help somebody who wants to get into their first house. You know, it's true.
We can too, it's just a lot more expensive.
Yeah, it's a little different. But, you know, I mean, let's say somebody who he has a great job, but isn't at the top tier of earners in the area, you know, they can consider Tacoma as a good viable option. And there's, you know, we go to public schools in Tacoma, and we love the school track that we're on.
Okay.
You know, we love the community resources. I think some of that gets overlooked because you see the news of Tacoma, and until you've actually gone down and experienced Tacoma, I think you're missing out. And, you know, for me, I don't think you're going to get me out of town. We really love it there.
Thanks so much for joining us and Nick to talk a little bit more about the Tacoma real estate market and how it compares with the Seattle Bellevue market. If you made it to the end of this video and you're talking or thinking about buying in Tacoma, this is definitely the guy, Nic Lind. I'll put his contact information down below. And if you want to stay up to date on the Seattle area real estate market, please subscribe to the channel right now. And if you want to talk more about buying or selling here, feel free to reach out.